So hi everyone, Richard Carlton. Welcome to FM Trend TV. Today I'm at Claris. So FM Trend TV, every day is a great day to learn about the Claris FileMaker platform. If you want to support the channel, we recommend you purchase one of our subscription bundles. With that in mind, I want to welcome HOnza. What are you doing here today? Why are you here and why should we care? Right? I always ask people that question.
Okay, so for today, I'm here mostly because one of the things that I care about for the last maybe 14 years is the performance of FileMaker, and I spend a lot of time measuring, benchmarking, and optimizing FileMaker solutions. So whenever a new version comes out, I test it, find out what's slower, what's faster than the previous version, and what are the new possible ways to make the solutions faster.
Now, some of the best videos we've done, and there was a video that we did back, Margaret, and I would, if you see it, can you pull the link out aside for that? It's the one where HOnza was here and he was showing that he had this like on calc, it was a calculation field, somehow it would be a calc or an object on the layout. And he showed that as you would display a layout or display a list view, that calculation would run one time like 5,000 times, which is crazy, very inefficient. And so he showed how that worked and why it worked. I haven't been schooled that badly. So he's awesome, one. Two, he's here today to talk about the differences between FileMaker version 20 and 21. And so we're talking about FileMaker 21, which we have to have like a little FileMaker for Margaret. You need to do like the Cliff Notes version. FileMaker 21 was shipped in the year 2024. FileMaker 20 was shipped in the year 2023. HOnza today is doing a performance check for the version just came out versus the version from last year. However, a bunch of you want to know about performance from previous versions. And so before we get lost in the weeds, let's wind the tape back to say FileMaker 16 or 17 or something, and take a look, because regardless of what happened between last year and this year, Claris, I remember starting with 16, they started caching things and the performance really started getting better and better and better. So HOnza, you want to show your screen and talk a little bit about this so people, because I want to frame the conversation correctly. So whatever the difference between 20 and 21 is, if you're on 16, really, that's not the issue. This is what you're dealing with. So HOnza, what are we looking at here? Just don't go in the weeds. Don't go in the weeds. Just kind of a high level.
Yeah, so basically, this is one of the I think last year or 2 years ago articles comparing a few versions of FileMaker. As you may recall, when it was 19, we were getting point something release every quarter. So what I was checking is different kinds of operations and compared how they evolved. It's important to mention that in all these charts, the wider bar means faster. So you can see that in most cases, even though it was not a huge change, it was like moving forward in some things. Maybe 10 years ago, I wrote an article where I was explaining. It was a provocative name article. Saying FileMaker 12 is slow when FileMaker 12 was released. But the point was every time they add a feature that improves something, it may be at the cost of something getting slightly worse. But they are paying attention to what is actually used and what is not so often. So every time something becomes slower in FileMaker, and that's my experience from the last 10 years, is that something else actually becomes significantly faster, and that thing that became slower is typically something that I don't care too much about. So that's a good sign that they are always trying to make FileMaker faster. And for last 5 years, I saw that the main focus was on the scalability. So you may not have noticed the significant changes on installations with 5 or 10 users. But what has changed recently in the last few major versions is the maximum number of users that are supported by the platform. So if you can recall the time of FileMaker 16, it was a product for typically up to 100 users.
Yeah, about
And
100. About 100,
yeah,
yeah.
and it was very rare to see installations with more than 100 users. Typically, if you wanted more than 100 users, you installed several servers and found a way how to replicate data between them.
Yeah, we did that. That was a 5-day live stream.
Yeah. So now the officially supported number of users maximum on WebDirect, if I recall correctly, is 2,000. So that's a huge difference.
So
But
the, so not to go too far off in the weeds, there are huge performance benefits, right? From some of these versions. So if you're on an older version like 15, 16, 17, 18, or any of the early versions of 19, there are huge performance benefits. Now, so what he's showing here is typically the difference between a couple. This is probably 8 months or 9 months or a year between these two releases, but this is 6.1 times faster in this situation. And this is not off in the weeds. These are areas
yeah,
that you're going to notice the performance improvement. So
exactly. And this specific test that I'm showing right now, that was calculating a summary or total
oh,
of summary field. So
almost
typically,
everyone uses those on a list view, right, Margaret? Yep.
exactly. For instance, for instance, you have a invoice line items, uh, uh, and the typical beginner user just uses a summary field to calculate the total of the invoice until they figure out it's becoming slow. So this is an example of change that happened between 19.4 and 19.5, and this was on a local network. So when I did this same test on a slow computer, I noticed that the calculation of the summary field got 75 times faster. And when I tried the same thing on a wide area network over the internet, it was 340 times faster. So this is an example of what Claris is trying to do with every new release. Obviously, they have limited resources, so every time they make some things better. In the last few years, they also focused a lot on fixing bugs. So I think the total number of bugs that have been fixed in the last 2 years exceeds 2,000, if I recall correctly. So that's amazing. But they also come with some speed improvements. But so this is something that has been happening over the last 5 to 10 years, and I have not seen a version since I started doing these tests that would become significantly slower than the previous version in some critical feature. There were things becoming slower. It always happens. For instance, when they replace the old rendering engine with the new one with allowing conditional formatting and 4 different states for each object. They added like 5 times more things to
That
process,
was like
right?
from 11 to 12, right? FileMaker 11, or was that
Yes,
12? Yeah. So,
yeah, and like with 6 to 7, that was in 6 we had just one-way relationship. Now we got in 7 we got a relationship graph, and we could create relationships between tables 12 tables away, things like that, and people started creating solutions that were 100 times more complex than what you could imagine in 6. So yeah, it became much more powerful, but we always keep asking for more, right?
historically, this platform has got much faster. So if you're a person looking for a specific reason to move forward in your FileMaker upgrade, you need to think about doing A, the performance, and B, the security improvements. Never mind the new features. I think this is important. So because most of today's conversation is a comparison between last year and this year, what we have right now. So
yeah, but what's also important to mention is that best practices change, because in an older version, you could find out that a specific thing would be the fastest way to do that. And as they fix what was the reason for another method to be slow, that can change actually that the method that used to be slow becomes actually the better one. So it's all that's also important to when the new version comes, just retest whatever you have tested in the previous versions, and has had a big impact on your solution, because things that used to be slow can be the right way to do it in the new version. So this is what was happening in the recent past, and now today what I have here is the fresh results of the new version that came out this year. So that's 21, and
when compared with the version from last year. So once again, if you're on a version from 3 or 4 years ago, there's going to be huge performance improvements. This is just from last year to this year.
So if you're running like a 3 years old version, it's definitely worth checking the latest one. Besides having so many bugs fixed, there are many things that have improved. But if you are just 1 year behind, you can see what is the difference between 20 and 21. And it's also important, for instance, some people may be scared. What if the new version actually becomes slower? So that's also a good reason to look at these results. So just to explain before showing the actual results, this is what we are using for the test. So we had a FileMaker running on the Ubuntu Linux, the 21 LTS. So that's the currently until 24 becomes the main supported one. So 22 is the main version to use at the moment, and we used the slightly older Mac Pro as a client. So anything that's more current is obviously going to be much faster, but sometimes it's useful to use slower hardware for testing, because then you see the difference. If you get a like monster on your desk, then everything is fast and you don't have to worry about it, right? So this was the environment we used for testing, and we ran six tests in a row, where in the following tables, what I am going to show is when it's red or pink, it means that 21 is slower than 20, and green means that it becomes faster. And this saturated red means it became significantly slower, and this dark green means it became significantly faster. So I will leave this legend open for a reference. And the first result was for using the bench test database. Before I go there, I'll just briefly show on the web. Bench tests is something that you can find on the 2for-You software website under tools. It's a free download, and it's a database you can get on your computer and run your own set of tests and compare them with the results that were collected by other developers and submitted to our website. We have them sorted by these groups. So whether you are testing just on a local file or on the same machine, local network, or internet, your test result will get published in the right category, and you can compare it to everyone else there. So we ran these standard tests, and these are the results that we found. So on a local file and a local network with a single file, you could say it became a little bit slower, but as you can see, the slowness is actually negligible. I think correct is to say it's equally fast or equally slow, because when we examine the detail of those tests, it was really just a random specific test becoming a little bit slower. And I assume that it was in these percentages, it was mostly caused by some unavoidable external factors, such as the OS deciding to check whether there is a new version to download or things like that. So that's also why we ran the 6 tests instead of just one, to get some and only to the best result from each set of tests to compare, because you today with the multitasking and the modern operating systems, you really cannot ensure that 100% of the resources are dedicated to FileMaker. The system always does other things as well, and unless you get the difference in tens of percents, you can assume that it's equally fast. So this actually does not mean anything bad. It just means that it's the same speed as the previous version. This one got a little bit more interesting, and that was a simulated ADSL. So in this case, we got 21 about 20% faster.
All right, I'm
And
going to
that's
interrupt real quick. I'm going to interrupt. So ADSL used to be an acronym that everyone knew, but it's not used in the United States too much anymore. So do you want to explain that real quick?
okay. So this is a kind of a slow internet connection simulated. So we kind of use a tool called Network Link Conditioner for Mac, which you can use to slow down your network to simulate bad conditions. So what we simulated is like I believe only 100 megabits throughput of the network, and I believe something like 50 milliseconds latency, which is like if you connect from the West Coast to the East Coast server, and have to deal with that long
Yeah,
distance.
do me a favor real quick. Just see if you can go to a Safari and do a search for network link conditioner, so people know. I haven't talked about this in a long time, but this is a free tool that you download. It's part of the Xcode. When you buy bundle it, just going there. You go, network link conditioner. So it's additional tools as part of Xcode. It's an app. When you scroll down, I don't know if they'll show it at all.
No,
It
this is not a
actually
download link. This is just some discussion, but
discussion on it. Yeah. So, but what is really cool about it is that you actually set it and say, well, I built a FileMaker solution, but
I
how
may
will it
even have it
perform?
installed.
What's that?
Uh, I may
Yeah,
even have, no, I don't.
you don't have it installed. But you can say, well, pretend like you're a cellular cell phone connection and the person's in a bad area. So you can specify the number of packets it will drop. So it deliberately puts whole computer into this kind of performance kind of mode, but you can dial it around to what you want, and you can see how FileMaker behave. How does FileMaker behave at 70 milliseconds or 100 milliseconds of delay, right? Really
Mhm.
a great tool for that.
I
So
think
anyway,
we have it in some article.
it's a control panel that you put in your Mac, and it causes your Mac, the whole Mac, just suck it, to suffer, right? So whatever no, it takes whatever now if your performance is already on your Mac, network wise, then keep going. Yeah. So
This
here it is.
this is what
It
it
it just
looks
makes
like.
it worse than it already is. It doesn't magically. You can't polish a turd. Okay, so if you have a turd
Yeah.
network, you can't polish it and make it wonderful. If you have a good network, that's great. Benchmark it. Then you dial this down. So what you can do is you can see, if you look on the screen, turn on or off, and it affects the whole computer when you do this. And the problem is, I've done testing before, and I left it on, then I went came back over the weekend, came back on Monday, and I'm like, why does this Mac suck so much? Why is this whole performance? And it's because this thing's still on, simulating a bad network. So you can see the upload speed, the download speed. You can set the speed of how much data it can send through the packets at one time, right? Technically, the speed, I don't want to get in the weeds, but the speeds are there, and you can also simulate the number of drop packets. Generally, FileMaker starts to itself if you start dropping more than 10% is listed historically, what I've noticed. You want applications to be as least sensitive as possible. And so when these numbers in real world get bad enough, you end up moving your app to the local market. You run it locally, like on your BVA, the photo app is run locally. Because I was worried about these numbers on a 4G connection, right? When we built that.
Yeah, I remember.
Okay, so there we go. This is really valuable stuff right here. So if you're a professional developer, this should be a tool in your toolbox.
Yeah,
if you're a Windows person, is there an equivalent? I'm sure there is on Windows. I just don't know what it is off the top of my head.
Yeah, and by the way, specifically the latency, the delay, the turnaround time between sending the packet and the packet reaching the target, that's the parameter FileMaker is still the most sensitive to. So, and for instance, this is the reason why I would never try to run FileMaker connection to this FileMaker server over a satellite. I'm not talking about the Starlink that has very low latency compared to the old satellite networks, but the old satellite kinds of connections, that's definitely not good for FileMaker. So this is what we tested. So we tried a slow network connection simulated, and there we could measure 20% improvement in performance in 21 compared to 20. So that was interesting, and basically it's already fast enough on a fast network. So the fact that it's becoming better on a slow network, that's quite huge. That's quite important. Now, there was one thing that was mentioned in the release notes for FileMaker 21, and that was improved caching of the relationship graph. And part of the bench test is also that I have a very bad example of very bad relationship graph with thousands of relationships. And when I received that from Vincent Lunier, who submitted it to community a few years ago, it was taking like 10 seconds to create a record, if I recall correctly, and even more to just open the file. So we tried to we included this test in the bench test to see how this is going to improve in the future. And honestly, we didn't find any significant difference in this test. So the next thing that when I think about relationship graph and caching, that comes to my mind is the speed of running a server-side script. And if you have seen some of my previous past presentations at DevCons, I was talking about a thing called arachnophobia, and I was explaining why why you should worry about big spider web in your relationship graph.
We talk on the live stream and training about how you build the relational diagram. We spend a lot of time on it. For those of you who've watched me before, you know that we try to minimize the size of the table occurrence graph. And there's a very specific process that you can mentally follow. We've trained on this. We trained Margaret on it. And it was one of those sort of things. It was called Anchor Buoy. And it has been on again and off again recommended by Claris. Claris, from a technical perspective, very rarely recommends anything. I mean, for a long time, they wouldn't even recommend, we make backups of your database, but they would never say, we recommend that in the event of a crash, you always restore to the last backup. In fact, I don't know they've ever said that, because I'm right outside their legal department here. And the legal department has warned me before about making promises they can't keep. And so they're always nervous about saying anything specific. Like, have a nice day. And you say them, and then the lawyers go, oh, well, it might be a day. We're not sure if it's a day or not, and I'm not going to sign anything that says it's a day or not. So they get really excited about that stuff. So the short version of this conversation is that the anchor buoy issue that we talked about, HOnza in 2017 did a bunch of performance testing and found out that anchor buoy was by far the fastest method you could use to build stuff. And the very slowest method you could do to build something would be where you just connect everything together in one giant spider diagram, which is back to this arachnophobia kind of concept. Be afraid of giant fucking spiders because they will kill you, right? Or more specifically, they'll kill your FileMaker file. So that's where this comes in. So why am I such a stickler for anchor buoy? One, it's easy to train. Two, for new people, it's easy for them to understand. Three, it's one of, if not the, according to his research previously, it was either the fastest performance design method or tied for the fastest performed design method, right? So easy to understand and the fastest. Why wouldn't you want to use it? Well, some people, there are a lot of smart people in the FileMaker community, they get bored sometimes. It's like when you come home and your family has magically moved the furniture in the house. They haven't added furniture, they haven't got rid of furniture, they just move it because they want to change. People do sometimes change for that. I only change if I can train it better, easier, or the performance is faster. That's why we do what we do, and that's what so this is the guy who proved my point. So I'm always in love with anyone who proves what Richard says as being a factual statement. So thank you, HOnza.
So back to this, one of the reasons why, or one of the cases when the performance of the caused by a relationship graph is significant is when you're actually opening the solution. So when you're opening the database, the time it takes to actually load the relationship graph, build all the internal structures in FileMaker, all the field dependencies, that can take a lot of time. And when you just go to the office, get in, open your CRM, and leave it open for the whole day, you may think that, okay, I can wait a minute in the morning if that's the only issue. But when we started using PSOS, the perform script on server, where we have to want to start something on a server, thinking that that will make things faster, well, suddenly we discovered, especially we did in our own system, and we discovered that it took 6 to 9 seconds to just start a script. Only because every time you start a script on a server, it's like fresh opening of the solution. So whatever you do when you just for the first time open the database from the server, that's what's happening with every single server-side script.
Time out. Question, Margaret. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
If you execute a perform script on server, which is PSOS, what will the server first do as it opens or it tries to run that script? What will it do first? I mean, it gave you a clue. That's part of it.
It'll open a new client, and since it's a new client, it'll run any startup scripts.
Correct.
Available.
She gets that correct. So the client is invisible. When she says client, she should have framed that better. It basically opens an invisible copy of FileMaker Pro on the server. You can imagine this. You can't see it. It's there. It opens it up, and then it runs a startup script, loads all the relationship graph, what HOnza just said. Then it runs your script. Then it has to run the close script. And so if you have a horribly inefficient database with a giant spider diagram, it has to, every time you fire it, because the PSOS doesn't stay open. Like when it's done with your script, it runs a close and then it shuts down. It doesn't stay open, standing by, waiting for HOnza to send me some more stuff. It doesn't do that. It's complete open, complete shutdown every time.
And that complete open, that has even more steps inside, like loading all the plugins and building a fresh new cache for the session and all that stuff. So it's even doing more than what the client does when you open a solution. So that's something we discovered a long time ago, and that caused us to actually get our big relationship graph and cut it down to smaller pieces to improve that. But at that time, before we did this, it was taking not 6 or 9, but it was taking like 20 seconds for our script to start on the server. So
HOnza, you just suck. You're just a bad developer and you suck.
Yeah,
If you were a better developer, it wouldn't take that long. No, I'm playing with HOnza, but to be clear, most people are not as talented as HOnza. I'm not nearly as good as he is. HOnza won the World Wrestling Federation fight thing at DevCon a couple of years ago. They had a live.
They called it FileMaker DevCon Developer Cup, and it was in 2015 in Las Vegas.
Yeah, so if any of you guys remember the movie, Hugh Jackman, and he plays Swordfish, the opening of Swordfish, right? And the opening of that movie is Hugh Jackman's a hacker, and John Travolta's a bad guy, comes up, puts a gun to his head, and says, break into the Department of Defense, and you have 12 seconds to do it, okay? And so he's coding as fast as he can with a clock, a stopwatch. That's what HOnza did without the gun. Right? He was in there with 10 or other people that had all volunteered for this. We were like live camera, the whole thing. And so he's in there competing. He won the top developer at that contest. So this guy knows his shit. So the point is that you can find, most of us are not this smart. So we want to take all these techniques and all these things that we can do to make our solutions better and faster. And we want to take advantage of every little trick that we can to make it work fast, because we're not as smart as HOnza. Smart people can get around stuff. We need simple stuff. So thank you, HOnza. I know I'm just telling you, but people don't know who you are. And I was there when you kicked and you whooped at the entire developer conference. You whooped them all, whooped all of us.
Thanks for reminding people.
He doesn't know what to say. What do you say about that when someone says that? I don't know what to say. You're awesome. I remind him how awesome you are. Sorry.
But the point here is we still have solutions which take a few seconds to start a script on a server, even after all the attempts to simplify the relationship graph. So we use those real solutions to test 21 and compare it to 20 to find out how this relationship graph caching improved the performance. And I was expecting that to be like 10 times faster, because that's what I was hoping for. And unfortunately, we got only like a few percent improvement. So that's a little bit sad. It's still an improvement, and that's important to say. It's still an improvement, but it's not something that will like be a game changer. Not at least with these solutions that we tried it on. If you have a different experience, if you get a case where you can prove that 21 made running a server-side script significantly faster than 20, please do let me know, because it may be just a specific condition that needs to be met for this improvement to actually kick in and make a difference. But I couldn't find one yet at the moment.
Speaking of specific conditions, we do have someone asking real fast, is all these speed tests the same for Windows? Or do you know if it's Windows and Mac have much of a difference at all, or?
Well, whenever we tested Windows versus Mac, there were only small differences. Typically the differences were in UI being slightly faster on Mac and the backend being slightly faster on Windows. But it also depends on the hardware. Since Apple came up with their own Apple Silicon processors, that completely made it impossible to compare Windows to Mac, because previously I was running Mac and Mac OS and Windows on the same hardware, on the same Mac Pro, which was like Intel I think 4-core or 16-core processor, but that old Mac Pro can no longer run current versions of Windows and Mac OS, and the Apple Silicon Macs will not run Windows natively on the bare metal, so we can no longer directly compare Mac and Windows running on the same hardware. If there are no more questions, this takes me to something that Richard briefly mentioned, and that was the topic that I presented last time when we talked about performance here, and that was that calculation engine performance. So this is the chart that shows when I was testing a very simple calculation field and how it can affect performance of a solution. And that was just a very simple example with a single field with doing a slightly seemingly innocent or harmless things. I quickly got into that calculation being evaluated over 6,000 times. And that was something that this way I wanted to prove that even a calculation that evaluates in less than a millisecond can really matter if you do something that causes it to be evaluated so many times. And now, how many people are connected right now? Could we do some quick tests together?
Sure.
Yeah. Sure.
So 3 years ago, I submitted this idea to Claris community to make the calculation engine significantly faster. And so far I got about 2,000, a little bit over 2,000 votes for it, or 2,000 points. Sorry. Oh, bad. Why doesn't it work? I wanted to test it and it didn't work. Maybe that's because I'm blacklisted or what? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh man, harsh.
So basically, the point is, I made this little thing that actually gets the number of votes for this idea from the Claris community live, and I just would like to test it. If there's anyone who didn't vote for the idea yet, if you could try it now, so that we can see that the progress bar advances live here.
Okay, so how do I vote? I use my phone. Is that what I do?
Yeah, or there is this QR code on the left.
That's what I'm saying.
But I think you have already voted, so
I've already voted.
I think so.
There we go. I'm voting for you.
Yeah, but
Vote.
but
Vote.
it's you just need to log in with your Claris ID to the Claris.
Oh, I got to log in first. Okay, that is going to be a problem.
So
I did find a picture of
this is the idea.
There we go. Yeah.
So it's saying 2.3K. It's even not showing the exact number of points on the Claris community side, but yeah,
there it goes. It just went up.
Yeah. All right.
There we go.
Yeah. So it seems to be working. Great. Thanks for helping me to test this out. We are actually going to have this shown tomorrow, which for them is already today in the Brisbane Reconnect conference.
Ah, yes, Reconnect.
So I just wanted to test it out a little bit ahead of that moment because they have about 110 attendees. So hopefully that will make some change, some progress there.
Okay.
But anyways, you can if you use the QR code on the right, you can learn in more detail why I think this makes sense and why I think making the calculation engine first is very possible and is going to affect everyone using FileMaker. So that's why I believe in this thing. And unlike the small changes which affect only a small portion of the developers, I think the calculation engine is something that if it becomes significantly faster, we all are going to feel it. And
absolutely.
The best thing is without touching a bit, without having to change a bit of code.
Okay.
So we don't. if the calculation engine becomes faster, I believe everyone's FileMaker solution is going to get faster in a feeling visible way without having to change single script or single calculation. So that's it.
All right, the end. Everyone can leave now. No, I'm just messing with it. We have questions. Margaret, you want to share your screen real quick? That's one of the photos from that.
Yeah, this was this, which is in Slack.
Make it bigger. See if anyone has other pictures of that. Yeah, make it full.
There you go.
So this was they all wearing their competitors' outfits and
Yeah, it took me a second to remember this. I was like, oh, I remember this now. But
yeah, it was the developer and all the people had their computers out and they would say something like, "Well, we want you to design a fusion reactor that cures cancer, and you have 8 minutes to do it." And they're ding, and HOnza kicked and had it done first.
yes.
One year, the guy from Skeleton Key won it. The other year, HOnza won it.
That's a competition that should come back. That's fun.
Actually, the previous one was won by a guy called Christian Schmitz, and and that guy was not the Christian Schmitz from Germany.
Really?
It was a equally named guy from South America. I think Brazil or Venezuela. I'm not sure exactly from where, but that was funny. That we had two Christian Schmitz at the same DEF CON.
Wow. Okay.
That is
From
funny.
two different countries.
In all seriousness, HOnza, thank you very much. This was awesome, as always. Even if it maybe didn't give the answers we were all hoping for.
Well, I think holistically, you see that it's going the correct direction, right?
HOnza
Tomorrow.
returns to us next week as well for 2 days in a row. Actually.
Oh,
That'll be
that's
awesome.
right. Oh, HOnza's doing 2 days next week?
Yeah,
Ooh.
on Thursday and Friday.
Friday is going to be more advanced, but everyone coming on Thursday is going to be ready for Friday after the Thursday. So
Okay.
Buckle up and take notes.
Buckle up, buckaroos. Buckle up. If we didn't believe in the platform, if you folks didn't believe in the platform, A, we would be building something else, and B, we wouldn't be here talking about FileMaker. This platform is really exceptionally great. And HOnza, one of the things that HOnza does is educate us, but also very subtly pokes Claris, puts pressure on them to make it better, right? So if HOnza calls out performance and we listen and we have people watch the videos, then Claris knows that that's important.
Yes, no, absolutely.
Okay,
With that being said, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, HOnza, very much.
See you tomorrow.